Hi, this is Eileen Roth, your organizing tour guide and the author of Organizing for Dummies. This is my story. I grew up thinking I wanted to be an English teacher because it was the subject I liked the most in school. I went to college to get a degree, but when it came out, I couldn't find a job in any area near where I lived. So I went back to what I'd been doing before, or I should say while I was going to school, and that was really being what was called a secretary at the time and now an administrative assistant. And eventually I became an office manager. I worked in different types of companies. I even worked for King Sealy Thermos, which the Thermos part is, of course, the Thermos brand that you know. And I worked in their corporate headquarters. I worked at a law firm for a while as an office manager, and then I worked in an association management firm. And I really enjoyed that. Association management means that they manage more than one association. And I was the office manager, and I didn't have enough to do, so the president said, I know you're only working part-time, but there's not enough to do running a small corporate headquarters with just 30-some-odd people. So how about you help out in one of the associations? I said, great. And I worked for the Association for Corporate Growth, and I really enjoyed it. But the company at that time, even though they had celebrated 40 years of being in business, wasn't doing as well, and they were bought out. The people who bought them out didn't want me because I only worked during the school hours so I could be home when my kids got out of school at 3 o'clock. So I went to another association management firm. And unfortunately, that owner got, I believe it was leukemia, and her doctor said, you cannot have all this stress. I suggest you keep only one association, the Wild Bird Feeding Society, which really didn't have much stress because it's just people interested in birds, and so she closed her business. Those two layoffs were 8 months apart. I said, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. So I started and became an organizer, and I checked out doing my neighbors, did her kitchen pantry so I could just see if I liked doing homes. But what really got me going was one of those bosses from the first association management company hired me when he went to a new job and said, I want you to come and get our files organized and train my staff. And I'm going to have the files just shipped to the warehouse. My staff is not even going to see them until you organize them. And when you're done organizing them, then you'll explain to them what they need to know. So I did that. And even though I was sitting in a warehouse and organizing file folders out of bankers' boxes and putting the files together and finding things, and I remember the president said to me, I need you to tell me where they are incorporated right away because these boxes all came from Pennsylvania to Illinois and I need to file those papers. And I called him the next day and said, I'm not done with the files, but I want you to know that they were incorporated in Illinois, so you don't have anything to file. You're fine. They're all set right here. And I realized how much I really liked it. And even though I had no contact with anyone, I was working in a warehouse and the warehouse people were doing shipping and everything else and getting the files organized, I, for some reason, think that setting up a file system and getting things organized is fun. I know to most people that sounds like drudgery or something not very pleasant, but I really enjoyed it. And I consider that basically my specialty. Now, a lot of things have gone digital now, and I've always married the paper files with the digital files. So my specialty is really helping entrepreneurs get their file systems organized so they can get their work done, so they can be more productive, so they can find things fast. And I used to do home organizing too. Remember I said that I had done this lady's pantry? Well, when I did home organizing, I found a lot of people really just wanted to chat and things, and I'm not a good social chatter. I'm somewhat of an introvert, and I just want to get it done. So I did hands-on till I moved here to Arizona in 2000. And then I was asked to write the book Organizing for Dummies because they saw I'd been on the Today Show and the Oprah show. And they said, if you could get on those shows without a publicist and without having a book, then we want you to write our book. So I wrote their book, all 400 pages. And I realized that while I like talking about it, I love being on stage talking about home organizing, I no longer really like doing the hands-on and going to the stores and finding, just what they need or buying containers and things. I like doing it once in a while, but it's not something I want to do on a daily basis. So I talk about it, but I no longer do the hands-on part. So I name my company Everything in Its Place because this is what my parents taught me, to put everything in its place. That's what I like to do. And I still really enjoy setting up someone's file system. One of the things that makes it fun is I color code it. It takes extra time, but I think people find files faster by color coding. And so color coding, for me too, I mean, I just look around and know that, my files are different colors depending on what I'm working on. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, as some people would say. Of course, there's nothing not to stick to because it's all true. But if I hadn't been for those 2 layoffs that I was so upset about, I probably never would have become an organizer because I never would have thought to do it. And if it wasn't for one of the bosses hiring me, and then it was co-owned. The other one also hired me later, and I did 3 or 4 associations for him because they realized that I could figure it. I was totally familiar with association managements, and I could figure out how to set up the file system so that everything was logical. And if that person was out of the office, they could bring a temp in, and if they needed to find something, they could find it. So I enjoy setting up file systems, as difficult as that may seem to some of you. I think it's fun. And that's my business. So if you're interested in finding out more about my business, come check out my page and subscribe to my list, everythinginitsplace.net. So it's just everything in its place and .net. See you on the other side.